What's going on, people? Welcome to Football Carnage, and we are back with another video. And as you can tell by the title, this isn't going to be like one of my regular uploads. We're not going to even speak on any team news during this video. What I want to get into is probably the most asked question that I've gotten since I decided to start making content. And that is, why as an American do I support Real Madrid? And I thought, why not make a video on it? Now, to be honest, I have no idea how well this video is going to do, but I don't really care because I think it gives my subscribers and also new people that find the channel a little more insight on me. I think it'd be a cool way for you guys to get to know me a little bit better. But before we get into it, I need you guys to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on those post notifications, and get in the chat and let me know which club do you support and why did you start supporting them? But let's get it. Before we get into the football side of the video, I think it makes sense to give you guys a little bit of information on myself. And for this section of the vid, I will be calling it soccer just because it's easier to do that versus having to differentiate between American football and European football every single time. So I don't want to see anybody in the comment section crying, okay? Get over it. Now, when I was a kid, I never watched this sport. Nobody in my family was watching. Nobody in my family cared. So I wasn't aware of this sport at a young age, right? And I think if you're American and if you're watching this video, you can probably relate to what I'm about to say. Because growing up, the only two sports that I was watching was American football and basketball. That's what I grew up playing as well. And I think a lot of people have to realize that soccer is not that popular in the US. I know that around the globe, it's the number one sport, but in America, we kind of do our own thing. So we got NFL, NBA, we got baseball and hockey. Like, those are the four major sports. But nowadays, right, soccer is a lot more popular, especially since Messi has joined because he now plays in America. So there are a lot more eyes on it. But growing up, for me, I don't think I even knew what soccer was, bro. I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't tell you what that sport was back then. I never even heard of a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, a Manchester United, a Arsenal, Juventus. I never heard of it. It was a foreign concept to me. The only two teams that I cared about growing up was the New York Giants in the NFL and the New Jersey Nets in the NBA. I picked my local teams because I'm from New York. So that's what I grew up on. I know a lot of people, right? They find this sport because of their family. Maybe you support a certain club because of your grandfather or your dad. Maybe your older brother, an uncle, a cousin, somebody in your family would have probably put you on. But I didn't have that. I was the one that put my family on. I was the one that had to let them know what we were missing out on. So now, a lot of people in my family watch soccer because of me. I was the one that showed them the light. But yeah, I didn't discover the sport really in terms of I actually gave it a chance until the 2014 World Cup because I thought that European football was shit. I thought it was boring. I thought that you guys scored one goal, took off your shirt, and ran around. I'm like, who the hell wants to watch that? And on top of that, growing up, none of my friends were watching it, right? When I was talking to my friends, we were talking about what happened in the NFL or the NBA. So that also played a factor into why I never watched it either, right? Family and friends. The only kids who I knew that cared about soccer were the Spanish kids. So nobody in my close circle was really watching it like that. But as I said, it wasn't until the 2014 World Cup that my eyes were open. The 2014 World Cup changed my life. And I only have one man to thank for that. And it's Neymar. Because the first game that I ever watched, that I actually paid attention to, was Brazil versus Croatia. And I think that Brazil won like 3-1 or 3-2, something like that. But I remember Neymar and Oscar were cooking. I think Neymar scored 2 goals, and I think Oscar might have gotten a goal or he got an assist. And while I'm sitting there watching that game, I'm like, hold on. This can't be the same sport that I thought they only scored 1 goal during a match. There's no way. The way that they were moving on the ball, the way that they were attacking with their build-up play, the way that Neymar was able to beat defenders 1v1, Oscar as well. Those boys were hooping against Croatia. And I was locked in. So this is why the Brazil national team is my favorite. This is why Neymar is my GOAT. Because if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would be watching this sport today. Imagine if I would have tuned in, right? Imagine you're a kid that never watched this sport and you put on a game, and I'm talking about we get an absolute stink fest. What if Brazil versus Croatia ended 0-0 and both teams were out there playing Sean Dyche ball? Would you have came back and watched another game? Probably not. So this is why I call myself Brazilian. I'm Carninho, Willinho, whatever you want to say. Okay? Big up to the Brazil national team. I know that they got absolutely dog-walked versus Germany in that same tournament on home soil, by the way. One of the worst performances that I think we've ever seen in a World Cup. But nonetheless, they always got a special place in my heart because they're the reason that I decided to watch more games. And through watching more games, I watched the Colombia match. And I discovered this demon, James Rodriguez. Now, let's just get the $1 million question out the way right now. Because I'll tell you, James Rodriguez is the reason that I support Real Madrid. It might sound stupid to you, but it's not stupid to me. That 2014 World Cup that he had was generational. I don't think we've really gotten that many World Cup runs better than that. The way that this guy was scoring every single game, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That goal that he scored against Japan, where he had the defender playing Twister. The defender was looking like an Aunt Annie's pretzel by the time James chipped the goalkeeper. But the one that really got me, chap, was the volley against Uruguay. Oh my goodness. That was the first time that I ever saw something like that. Absolute screamer from outside the box. And I thought that James Rodriguez was the best player in the world. Yes, I thought he was better than Messi. I thought he was better than Ronaldo. I thought he was the #1 player in the world. Mind you, I didn't know that much back then, and you always hear of Ronaldo and Messi because they're so popular. But I never watched them play like that. So when I'm seeing James Rodriguez doing a madness damn near every single game, I'm like, nah, he's the best. And at that time, he became my favorite player because I thought he could do everything. His technical ability was super high. His passing, the way that he was able to take free kicks, his long-range shooting, his close control. What can James Rodriguez not do? Whatever you need on the ball, he can do it. The guy was a magician. That was a special tournament. So, to be honest with you, I followed him. Real Madrid signed him. And that's where I ended up going. And this is why I say that I think I got lucky with supporting Real Madrid. Because, to be honest, I fully believe that I would have supported whoever signed James Rodriguez. I'm going to be honest with you. If he would have went to Tottenham, Chelsea, Juventus, Bayern, I'll be real, even Barcelona, that probably would have been my favorite club. Because, again, I thought he was the best player in the world. And I thank God that he ended up going to Real Madrid. Because this is the best sports club that I support. They are the only reason that I have seen success in sports over the last few years. And once they signed him, I started watching club football more, right? Because I never watched it before. And that's when I started to learn everything that there is to this sport in terms of I didn't know that there were multiple tournaments for each club to try and win every single season. I never heard of the Champions League. I never heard of La Liga. I've never heard the Premier League, Copa del Rey, Spanish Super Cup, UEFA Super Cup, Champions League. I never heard of any of these things. But all that I knew was that Real Madrid signed James Rodriguez, and if I want to keep watching him play, I'm going to watch them. And funny enough, James' first season at Real Madrid was magical. It was his best season that he had for us. I think he had like 17 goals, maybe like 14 assists in all comps. I think he made the La Liga team of the season. He was on fire. And the biggest thing that kept me at Real Madrid was me being entertained because I'm still learning the sport, right? I think one of the first games that I watched for Real Madrid, they beat somebody like 9-1 or like 8-2, something like that. And I was like, this is clearly the best team in the world because they scored like 7 or 8 goals. Now, that was me taking a guess back then because of my ignorance, but I was actually right. Because since I found this club, it's been nothing but success. I became a Real Madrid fan because of James Rodriguez, but I stayed a Real Madrid fan because of the entertainment and, more notably, Cristiano Ronaldo. Again, in America, even if you didn't watch, let's call it soccer for right now, even if you didn't watch it, you knew who Messi and Ronaldo were. They would talk about them on SportsCenter, but I never paid attention. But when I started watching, I'm seeing this guy scoring goals for fun, bagging 4 goals in a game, a hat trick there, a brace over there. And I was like, yo, this guy is phenomenal. Now, at the time, I still thought that James Rodriguez was the best player in the world. I still thought that he was the number one guy. But as I got more knowledge, right, as I learned the game a little bit more, I realized James Rodriguez is not the best player in the world. He was still my favorite, but he's not on a Ronaldo's level. He's not on a Messi's level. He's not on Neymar's level. Just to throw a few names out there. But I got introduced to, like I said, Ronaldo, Benzema, Toni Kroos, Pepe, Sergio Ramos, right? Luka Modric, Marcelo, Rafael Varane, Isco, Gareth Bale, Casillas. Like, all these players. And I'm like, hold on now. These guys are all ballers. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't know if we won a trophy. I'm gonna be real, because I wasn't watching every single game. I was watching when I could, and I did try and watch as often as I can, but I don't know if the 2014-2015 season was that good. I remember Carlo Ancelotti was the manager at that time, and I remember when I first got into it, I started doing some research, right? I was looking into, what happened the season before, right? I saw that the club won Champions League. But I didn't realize that the Champions League was the biggest honor that you could win as a club. I didn't realize that them beating Atletico Madrid was a huge thing because I didn't understand the rivalries. I didn't understand the rivalries between Real Madrid and Barcelona, right? These are all things that I had to learn. But yeah, man, when I first saw this team, the white kits were super clean. I also liked, because that year, we had the black kits with the dragon on it. That was one of the first kits that I ever bought. And then we also had the pink ones as well. So, I was locked in from then. And again, I think that I was very fortunate to discover Real Madrid and for them to be the team that signed James, because I couldn't imagine if he would have went to Tottenham. And I'm sitting here right now as a Tottenham fan. Like, oh my days. I know some people are probably thinking, well, if you said that Neymar is your GOAT, then how come you don't support Barcelona? And the reason's pretty simple. When I was getting into the sport, right? And when I started talking to more people that liked football as well, I met Barcelona fans at school. I saw Barcelona fans on Twitter, and they were super annoying. They were always talking shit about Real Madrid. And I didn't get it back then. I didn't understand how big the rivalry was. And they were the better team from what I'm remembering, right? They had Messi, Suarez, Neymar. The first Champions League final I ever watched was Barcelona versus Juventus, right? I think they also won La Liga at that time. So when I was at school talking about Real Madrid, all the kids that like Barcelona were like, oh, you guys suck. Messi's better than Ronaldo. But the thing is, I didn't understand the rivalry like that. So I did used to watch Barcelona games because they played a good style of football, right? They had a very good team. Their midfield used to cook, right? You had Busquets, Xavi, Andres Iniesta. You had Dani Alves at the time, right? You also had like Piqué and Jordi Alba. Barcelona were the best team in the world. And I felt like I can't switch. I've been talking shit on a sport that I don't know because I used to talk shit back. Now, I used to make myself look like a complete idiot because more times than not, I had no idea what I was really saying. I would just kind of repeat what other people said. But I felt like I just couldn't switch. But I did enjoy watching Barcelona back then. And I think a lot of people preferred Barcelona over Real Madrid 2014, 2015 because I didn't know more Madrid fans than I knew Barca fans, at least in school. But online, it seemed like everybody was rocking with Barcelona back then. And I just didn't want to switch. I liked Ronaldo too much. James Rodriguez was still my favorite player. So I was like, it doesn't really matter. Because also, the sport wasn't even my favorite at the time. Like nowadays, European football is my number one sport. But back then, I didn't really care like that. I was watching it sporadically, but I still cared about the NFL and NBA more. So it didn't even make sense for me to think about switching teams or supporting somebody else like that. But yeah, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, it was amazing, right? I think that we got to be honest. And I have a question actually. What was the better attacking three? MSN or BBC? And that does sound crazy when I say it out loud. But get in the comment section and let me know. We got to talk about the Premier League because in America, it is by far the most popular league. And a majority of people that you meet that watch European football, more times than not, their favorite team plays in the Premier League. It's one of the big six, right? And I remember back then, right, when I was going to college, because that was after the World Cup, a lot of people liked the Prem. So I started watching it because I wanted to talk about it as well, right? Obviously, there were still the Barcelona fans that I would argue with, but a majority of the conversation was usually about what was going on in the EPL. So the team that I started watching the most because I liked their style of football was Arsenal, right? The way that Wenger had them boys playing free-flowing football, it was entertaining, right? Back then, they had Mesut Ozil, they had Alexis Sanchez, Santi Cazorla, Theo Walcott, I believe Olivier Giroud, right? I think like Hector Bellerin, they had Szczesny, the goalkeeper, David Ospina, the Colombian goalkeeper. They had Kashoni, so many guys. And I thought, again, the style of football was something that I liked watching. Also, Alexis Sanchez, I thought was amazing. Same thing with Mesut Ozil, the way that he was able to slow down the game, his passing. But Sanchez, more so, for me, his energy on the wings, the way that he was able to score goals as well. I was like, all right, fuck it. I like Arsenal as well. And they are my second favorite team. Now, I know a lot of people might not know this because of how I talk about them nowadays. But yes, I like Arsenal a lot. Now, I just don't rate what they have going on, but that doesn't mean that I still don't like them. I know people think I'm like an undercover Chelsea fan. I'm just not biased, right? If a team has a good project and a good squad, I'm going to rate them. And I'm going to talk about me rating them. And that's just kind of what it is with that situation. But yeah, man, look, I think Wenger and that style of football is what attracted me to Arsenal. And I just knew that back then they weren't as good as some of the other teams, right? Like Arsenal didn't have a Ronaldo. They didn't have their own version of like Isco or Toni Kroos or James Rodriguez. So they were never going to be my favorite team. But back then, especially in college, everybody liked the Premier League team. So if I wanted to talk ball more times than not, I had to familiarize myself with the EPL. And now you see more recently, right? The Premier League, no, or I'd say even from back then, the Premier League is the top league in the world in terms of entertainment value because they have all these big clubs that spend a lot of money, and there's a reason why these big clubs have so much money because they have all these big TV deals because of how popular it is. So, yeah, if I wanted to talk ball, aside from the few kids that I talked about Barcelona with, I had to familiarize myself with the Premier League. Like, nobody was really interested in talking about La Liga that much, unless it was like El Clasico or a Madrid derby. As far as content creation goes, I started during COVID, way back in 2020, and initially it was called Prem League Media, right? I was focusing on the Premier League because all that I saw on YouTube were Premier League fan channels. So I thought that if I wanted to get my video seen, I gotta do something similar, right? All eyes are on the EPL. They are the most popular league. So initially, when I first started making videos, it was for Premier League stuff, right? I used to like do transfer videos sometimes, but I was never really consistent. Like I'd post maybe like a few times a month. And then I got a job at a major sports media company. All of you guys know it. Some of you guys will know what company I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say it right now because I just don't want to. But I got a job and I stopped posting on the channel for like 2-3 years. And then I decided to make a comeback. That's basically what it was. I decided to come back because I wanted to start talking about my favorite team, Real Madrid. But when I was doing the Premier League stuff, it wasn't as fun. And then when I got my first real job, I just didn't really have time. So I took a break for 2 years. And then I decided to come back. I rebranded, right? We're no longer Prem League Media. I tried to do Will Talks Football, but that sounded so tacky. So then I came up with Football Carnage. And I started posting again. I started being consistent. And it was super hard at first because last season, nobody was watching me, right? I used to have like one live viewer for a 2-hour watch along. Or I used to do transfer shows and I'd have 2 people watching me. I used to upload videos and get 20 views. It was super rough, but I stayed consistent and here I am, right? I think that we've been growing at a decent rate, and I appreciate everybody that's been supporting the channel, that's been smashing that like button, that's been subscribing as well, that gets in the comment section. Big up to your damn self, man. I appreciate all of you guys. But look, I thought that this would just be a fun, quick video just explaining how I got to become a fan of this sport and how I ended up in this situation right now. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, get in the comment section, right? Let me know what you guys are thinking about what I talked about. Also, do not forget, let me know your favorite team and why you started supporting them, right? Big up to your damn self.